Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Bill Yeager. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. We're so grateful to have you here today. Pretty early on in the year. We're still at the beginning of the year, first quarter. And what happens most years is people decide to start this wonderful thing called transformation. They do their resolutions, they set these goals, and not too long afterward, we fall off the wagon, me included. I've done it several times, but you are an award-winning success and transformational specialist, speaker, author, fitness entrepreneur, and you're going to help people figure out the way to stay on that wagon, not get off, or if they get off, get right back on. So welcome to Savvy.
Oh, thank you so much for an awesome introduction. Thank you so much for having me too, and your listeners for listening.
Oh my gosh, you betcha. Now, I'd love to hear what really brought you to the world of fitness.
Oh, well, I struggled for a very long time. I grew up in a very difficult and traumatizing authoritarian type of atmosphere and parenting style. And it was really, it was just a difficult way to live day in, day out. I felt like I was abused. And these days, if there was a DCF to knock on the door, I think they would, they'd be taking some people in. And, you know, it was just constant discomfort and pain. And ultimately, I truly just didn't feel loved. And whether I was loved, I don't believe I wasn't, but I just didn't feel loved. And that was very difficult for somebody to go through. And I went to comfort. And for me, as a kid, you only really have so much to access, right? And aside from running outside or running on your bike or whatever, or trying to run it off, you go to food, you know, or at least I did. And I think a lot of people do too, you know, just to feel better. And that started the conditioning of me going to food to feel better. And I became overweight to the point where it was obese. And right when I was able to grab a fake ID, I think I was 17 years old and was introduced to alcohol. I started hitting that. I was kind of a big and beefy kid, right? Being obese, you kind of look a little older, you know? So I started buying at a young age, and I became just drinking my sorrows away. And what happens? You're caking it on, and you just develop that routine and those habits that just bring you down. And what happened was somebody came along. I was 22 years old-ish. Somebody came along and inspired me, and they showed me all these people, these 10 people who were able to go from some rut in their life. We all got a story. They went from some rut in their life to lifting themselves out of it and creating a completely new lifestyle of healthy eating. But what really got me, where I was touched, was that their entire lives changed. It wasn't just the way they looked, but it was how they felt and how that was presented in their business, how that was presented in their relationships, and how their whole experience in life was completely different. And that to me was like so powerful. So that's what motivated me to finally get out of that place. And it was uncomfortable at first, but to get out of that place. And what I did was I literally reinvented myself in 12 weeks.
Wow, 12 weeks. Just wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And, you know, I mean, everyone does it slightly different. I had a gal many years ago who worked with people who often people won't get started because they'll see the end result they want, and it seems so huge that they'll do a few things and it's too hard, as you said, uncomfortable, and they just stop. And she would work with people and say, okay, let's just do one thing. One day, one thing today, not think about tomorrow. And for one guy, it was like 2 liters of soda every day. We're cutting that puppy out. We're doing lemon water. That one change in a year lost 100 pounds. Just one change.
I bet. Oh, yeah. Wow. Huge.
Yeah. And so it's amazing how sometimes the small things can add up. It's like when you save and it compound interest, compound results.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I believe in that kind of momentum, because there's got to be some kind of spark, right? There's got to be that thing that comes up where usually, people are in a difficult place, right? And then they go look for something. But then instead of doing this dramatic change, they can start by doing some of the little steps to start proving to themselves that they can do this, and once you start getting that proof, like, wow, just this one little thing makes such a huge difference. Now that whole momentum starts to change.
Yeah.
You can go from where you are to where you want to be by taking, you can certainly take the longer road by just taking those small little steps. So it doesn't make, you don't make it out to be too much bigger in your head.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you did the 12-week transformation, what was it for you that I'm all in and I'm not going to back down? I mean, because many would just say, whoa, this is way too hard. How did you just stay that road?
So for me, it really had to be like, for me, it was a time, much like I said, like I got that spark, and I got that feeling of, I am just sick and tired of being where I was. And so I got like, I kind of got excited, I got excited when I saw other people who did it at the same time that I was struggling so much. And for me, I believe in immersion. I believe that I was successful because I got excited at the same time I made a decision and I took that enormous action. That's what I teach people when I work with clients, or right here in the book, Unleash Your Internal Drive. It equals momentum. So I'll say it again. It's excitement plus decision plus enormous action creates freaking momentum. And that's how people can relieve themselves from being stuck. Because once you have that momentum, that flywheel starts spinning faster and faster and faster. You're like a machine, you're unstoppable. And once somebody reads this book, you find your excitement, and that motivation, much like I did. I went back to my history and I said, what worked for me? What did I have to do? I peeled it apart. I interviewed tons of people who've done it too. And I put it all in this book, so you can have that incredible energy inside you, that sustainable energy. And it leads into the decisions and taking action, that are strategically placed throughout this book. And including, what's really cool is I have a YouTube channel too that's kind of connected to this book. I've never seen it before in any other books, but I'm like, how cool would it be if I had like step-by-step guides that help people go through these action steps? So, there's, because a lot of people are visual learners, and these action steps create momentum, and momentum allows you to always make the right decision to keep moving forward so that you can change your life.
I love it, Bill.
Oof. Right?
Yeah, I love it. And you know what you brought to mind for me that I'm getting from your story is this idea that you connected with people who had succeeded and who had a belief in you, I'm gathering, because I had made a kind of, it seems like a transformation like you made overnight in the corporate world, because I had a boss who saw potential in me. He said, I see the diamond in, you're like a really rough stone, but I see a diamond in you. But he tore me down. He said, you're not acting the part, you're not being the part, you're not living up to what you can be. And this was early in my career, and he just tore me down. But he wanted to just show me that you're not being who you should be. And I so admired him as a person that night I called my friend up. I said, I've never bought a suit. We need to go to Macy's. We need to get a suit. So she went with me. We got 3 suits, a briefcase, and some other stuff, business stuff. And I came in the next day with the business suit. And just to say, just walking in with the suit changes your way of being, how you walk in the room. Instantly that week, by the end of the week, everyone on the floor was like, did she get a promotion? Is she a manager now? And I wasn't. I wasn't, but his talk with me is very frank, but I believe in you, but tough talk. It was that motivation, but also belief that I know you can do it.
Wow, that's so powerful, so powerful. There's so much in that's beautiful. The fact that the power of belief is actually one of the things in my book. The power of getting into the state that you need to be in order to win. That print transmits, without getting too technical, like that changes your tuner, that changes your frequency. So that's emitting in a different way.
Yeah.
And the beauty is it's coming right back to you. And I could see how a transformation like that can totally happen in the business world. The cool thing about this book is that you could use this in your relationships. I've used it in my business. Like this isn't just a weight loss book. There's no nutrition or exercise talk at all. It's getting the mental strength to be able to create the armor that you need to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Now, let's talk because I know the past 2 years when this got started with the craziness that's going on in the world, I was really angry. And interestingly, I use my emotions differently. When I was angry, I said, let's not use this negatively. How can I use this and channel this anger for good for me? So what I did, I started pumping iron, which I've never done, never liked doing, but I started going to the gym, pumping iron. I was like, this is awesome. It's like, it helped me get my anger out, but a way to deal with it in a positive manner. So let's talk about how people can use maybe, say, negative emotions, but transform it into something that can be positive for themselves.
It's such a simple step too, because, and I love that you do that. And I felt your energy across as you were explaining it when you were like pumping iron. And it was literally one of the strategies that I used unconsciously when I did this, because I wanted that way out. And I had a lot of anger and resentment towards my father, so I was releasing that. But you can release it literally. And I'm going to slow down here because I want people to stop and pause and really pay attention. It's literally by changing your conversation and your belief around it. That same experience you can take to empower you by simply changing the script that you're saying in your head. Yeah. By reframing it, how can I use this to empower me? Instead of how am I going to feel sorry for myself? Or how am I going to make myself feel better? Or why is this happening to me? There's those simple things. That's how you start to rewire and reprogram your brain.
Bill, I love that you're saying that, because often, whatever the trial might be, maybe you found out I have a horrible disease, or, I found out my husband of 20 years has left me, or whatever it might be. You can say that this is the most disastrous time in my life. How could this happen? It's horrible. But where is the gift in this, which is really hard to see at that moment when you're going through it. But often when you look back and you pull out the gifts, like maybe it's that the past 2 years you've lost your job, but now you found something that you love, you didn't even know was a passion, a gift, a hidden gift you've forgotten about, that now you're able to put on the table and maybe make into an income that maybe you wouldn't have done had you been on the treadmill of just going to work every day, coming home, making dinner, and you get off that treadmill. You have, as you say, that pause that allows you to go like, what's next?
It's often the story, right? And so often you talk to people, and when they're emerged in that adversity or that challenge or that problem or whatever, however way you want to label it, we're not conditioned to think about why is this here to serve me? We're conditioned to, oh my gosh, we call up our friends and then, we talk about it to them, and, everybody's feeling sorry for you, feeling sorry for yourself. And it's like, but then you talk to them 2 years and be like, oh yeah, you know what? You wouldn't believe that was the best thing that ever happened to me because I found that person that I married, or I found this or that, or like you said, something was presented to me that wouldn't have if that didn't happen.
Absolutely.
So getting to that state before while you're in this challenge will best serve you and seriously fast track you to where you want to go, whatever goal that is.
Yeah, I love that. Now we're going to come to a close very soon, but I want to leave our audience with, let's say you started January and you made this goal, whatever it might be. Maybe it's weight loss, maybe it's, doing better at work, but they're already starting to see that they're falling off their goals or promises to themselves. And that is kind of a really dangerous thing when you kind of don't keep your promises to yourself. What can they do to really get back on track, feel that motivation again, and stick with the ongoing goal of transformation?
Okay. So the best thing, it really comes down to, well, first of all, buy my book, Unleash Your Internal Drive. That's the first thing that they can do. Really. But to answer your questions, to best serve your listeners is to really honor your self-commitment, and I use this really cool method. I designed it years ago. It's called the JAM method. It's to be able to really find where you're stuck, because that's what happens, not being ready and able to be able to conquer challenges is when people start going back to their old patterns. So the awareness of when it was created is huge. You know, the first part of that. So JAM means journey, attitude, and method. You got to look at your journey, which is basically your history. You know, they've got something in their history that messed them up, you know, somewhere along the lines. How was it? Was it a trauma? Was it a thing that happened? Was it patterns that came from your parents? Whatever it is, it created a subconscious behavior that's holding them back, you know, or they may have some limiting beliefs, as we talked about, or conflicting beliefs. And when that happens, people go from taking action to a complete standstill, and they don't know why. You know, they start beating themselves up about it. This is why the cycle of yo-yo dieting happens. You know, it destroys somebody's self-esteem over and over and over, making things worse. You know, so you got to be able to identify what was that thing. Okay. And awareness is going to make a huge difference, but then you got to assess your attitude around it. You know, have they built the armor yet to be able to attack challenges when they come? So it's not an issue. So when that challenge shows up, instead of running that subconscious pattern that leads them to failure, they define failure as a stopping point, because they equate that pain to it, and their brain does its job, right? It keeps them from the pain. So they decide to quit. And like I said, this book shows you how to redefine your failure completely. And much like you said before, so you never get to that pain. You redefine the challenge by asking yourself, what is it in this challenge that I can grow from? So that way you don't quit at all, you know, so that way you don't have to use that commitment, because I committed this thing, and to have to fight through it. You're motivated, you know, so you don't have to run that subconscious challenge behavior, because that's what happens. Challenge shows up, you run that pattern, subconscious challenge behavior. And if you have control over it, it doesn't show up in the first place. So that you can honor your commitments, and you can stay motivated and reach your goals, even build your self-esteem and confidence along the way.
That's amazing. Everyone, go out and unleash your inner drive, achieve your winning mindset for sustainable weight loss, fitness, and a triumphant lifestyle. You have a website, Bill Yeager's Transformations.com. You can find him on Facebook, the same, Bill Yeager's Transformations, on YouTube, with wonderful YouTubes that will help you stay the course, motivated, and do the step-by-step lessons, which are helpful if you feel like, hey, I'm not able to stay the course. Bill can help you stay the course. I just have to thank you again, Bill Yeager, for coming to share your great wisdom today on Savvy Broadcasting.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me, and your listeners for listening.
You betcha. Take care.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.